What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the greatest combat sports and culture show, the entire universe fight podcast. But this isn't a regular episode. You see who is sitting directly next to me with that fantastic hoodie on, or should I say sweatshirt? My man's out here looking dapper as hell. Is none other than the guru, CAMM. We are talking about boxing today. You know what time it is. Guru's Corner, all things boxing. CAMM, what it do, bro?
What's good, my guy? It's been a while. I missed you, man.
It
What's been going on
has
in your
been
life?
misused. Hey, man, we are out here trying to make it do what it does. Breaking down all of the fights, all kinds of crazy stuff is going on, and I'm excited to do that with you, man. How's everything with yourself, bro?
Everything is good, man. Life's been busy. I was
Nice.
in Boston this weekend. You know how much I hate that city, but I was in Boston for
Oh
a very
yeah,
beautiful wedding this past weekend. And one thing that Boston does have is amazing food. I was able to get some great Haitian food. DC ain't got good Haitian food, and I did
hey.
not fuck with that. Boston got good
DC
Haitian
doesn't
food.
have good Haitian food.
No, 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 no,
That's
no.
surprising.
It's not a lot of Haitians in DC.
Oh, I was all right. So
While
Boston, huh?
DC is a
There's.
while DC is like a black ass city, it's not like
I mean, that's what I was
uh,
saying.
yeah,
It's
it's
a
a lot of
chocolatey
Nigerians here.
city.
It's a lot of Africans here. It's
Ah,
not a lot of like Jamaicans, not a lot of Haitians here, not a lot of
so the
Caribbeans here in
fufu be
general.
popping out there, huh?
Yeah, I don't eat much like African food. Like when I do have it, it's great. But like Haitian food is my thing, and the Haitian food is just not it in DC. But I go to Boston, I go
Oh,
anywhere and get good Haitian food. And like I went and got some, just like exactly. I used to have Haitian food every single week, and I miss it so
of
much. But
course.
just one week, and it was the first thing I did.
Oh, dude. That is one thing. Like I said, Puerto Rican food and Haitian food is very, very similar. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Fantastic. Um, I do miss Puerto
That
Rican food.
rice.
Dog, come on, man. It's so damn good, man. Come on, anything Caribbean is the shit. But I digress. Um, yo, there's been some boxing. Finally, there's been some boxing. And I am so happy to break some of this stuff down with you. But we had actually a really entertaining fight this past weekend. We had Figueroa versus Mark Masegao, both former champions. Figueroa defeated Masegao via unanimous decision. It was a great fight. It was this past weekend on Showtime. Guru, I gotta ask you this, man. It was a contested fight. It was a very, I felt like it was going back and forth. In your opinion, was the scorecards right? Did they get it right?
Nah, that was wide. That was wide. I think the two judges had it like maybe 117 to 109, then maybe 118 to 108. Not in the like shutout type of way, but in the type of way that you can get to with 2 point deductions, which Magsayo had for the excessive holding. And I he was definitely holding, and he deserved
Absolutely, they were
each of
both
those
holding.
point deductions. But that was a
They were both
very,
holding pretty
very
crazy,
wild
but
decision.
yeah.
Yeah, but the way the ref put it is that when I tell you to stop, you don't stop. When I tell Fig to stop, he stops. And Fig,
There it
his
is.
game, he's not gonna want to hold. He's not gonna want to hold as much on the inside because that's where he's going to do his best work. That's where he did his best work
Right.
at 122. And it really was no different during this fight. You saw that start to play out in the second half of the fight. The first half of the fight, I thought was pretty dominant for Magsayo. I think he
Mm-hmm.
did really well with the movement, was able to walk Figgy into
Right.
some shots. But as the fight moved forward, Figueroa started to take up that pace because he was averaging probably under like 50, 60 punches around. This is a guy that tends to average closer to 100 punches around. So as he took up that pace a little bit more, Magsayo started to fade down the stretch. He starts holding more and more, gets excessive. He's falling all over the place, doing anything he can to kind of stay alive over those last few rounds. And that's where you saw Figueroa start to really
He was
separate
cooking.
himself. Now I thought it should have been a much closer fight than it was, but I mean
Right.
the scores were as they were. I thought Figueroa probably deserved the win. I just don't think it was that wide. Now, let's talk about Figueroa. I think he's always in exciting fights. The guy is made for TV. He
Mm-hmm.
now is the WBC interim featherweight champion. He'll be taking on Ray Vargas next. I thought they played up Ray
Yep.
Vargas really well. They didn't talk too much about the Oshaki Foster loss. Like Oshaki kind of whooped his ass. I mean, I thought he came on a little bit more late, but I thought that was a pretty convincing win for Oshaki Foster. But that was at 130.
Right.
He's back down at 126, where he still is the WBC World Featherweight Champion, and that's a fight that I'll be looking forward to. It's going to be two conflicting styles. Ray Vargas uses that jab a little bit more, and is a great mover.
Yep.
And he's good at what he does. We'll see how that combats the pressure of Brandon Figueroa, who he likes to fight. He's called the Heartbreak Kid. You look at him, he looks kind of like a pretty boy, has like blue eyes,
for sure.
But he likes to brawl. He gets in there.
Yeah, he gets active.
Now for Magsayo, I'm not necessarily sure where he goes next, because now this is 2 losses straight. He lost to Ray Vargas, was trying to fight for a rematch, and then he now drops this decision to Brandon Figueroa. There's a lot of names in this division across the board, but then you get all into the street stuff, and then like you kind of lose it. I think on his side of the street, it's not many places for him to go. ESPN has some decent guys.
Yeah, they do.
And the Zone has some decent guys, but at 126, it's not that many fighters outside of maybe I'm missing it. I certainly could be, but it's not that many fighters outside of Vargas, and Figueroa on his side of the street that are going to be entertaining for him to take on. So I'm not really sure where he goes next. Obviously, for Figueroa, he goes directly into that fight with Ray Vargas to unify the interim and legitimate WBC title, but not sure where Magsayo goes next.
Sure.
Maybe he looks into some type of rematch with Gary Russell Jr., but he would lose that fight. A healthy Gary Russell Jr.
would. Absolutely.
That's just what it is. So I'm not sure where he goes next. I don't necessarily see him moving up to 130. That's maybe an option he can explore, but right now he's kind of boxed in a weird place at 126, and I just think like that decision was really wide. The way it ended,
and it was
a much
definitely
different story to the fight.
Absolutely, because he was, and again, I think you hit it on the head. I felt even in the rounds, if you were looking at the story of the rounds, Magsayo was performing extremely well. He was outboxing Figueroa like in those early rounds. I don't want to say he was boxing his face off, but he was absolutely doing work. It was at the end of the rounds. It seemed like his conditioning just wasn't held up, but it was some you win some. It was a little bit more back and forth. If you looked at that, it just looked like a one-sided ass whooping. But it was definitely a more contested fight than the scorecards would let you to believe.
For me,
you
take away the knockdowns, 10, 11, 12s, you probably give to Figueroa, but through 9 rounds, you could argue that Magsayo was probably up 6-3 in that range. Like,
seriously,
an argument for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that judging was questionable. Those are really, really wide scorecards. Unanimous, fair, I'll take it, especially with the reductions that he absolutely deserved. But those are really wide scorecards, and those I do not agree with.
No, I totally agree with you. One thing I do want to bring up to you is hold it for 1 second. I was pulling up Armando Resendez against our boy, somebody that we like. Let me put myself back on the camera. Our boy, Jarrett Hurd. He took an L this weekend. Ended up getting stopped in the 10th round. The only reason I wanted to bring this up is this was a guy that a lot of people really looked at one point in time as, this dude could be the one, right? He was, I don't want to say he's the one, but he was definitely a dominant champion at one point in time. It seems like this was his first fight in 3 years, or let me rephrase that. This is his first fight in 18 months. He has not won a fight in 3 years. When you see that and you hear that, where does Jarrett Hurd go from here?
He hasn't won a fight in 3 years, and also
3 years,
in 3 years. This is also his first KO loss. Now, granted, it's due to a cut on his mouth at the beginning of 10-round in the 10-round fight, but it is what it is. It goes down as a KO, and that is his first KO loss. To your point, he has not won a fight in 3 years, and really, it all fell apart after that loss to Julian Williams. I don't remember the guy's name. I think he had a DC trainer in his corner that he worked really well with, and whatever happened after that loss to Julian Williams, things fell apart between him and his trainer, and he never went back. And he left that trainer, and things were never the same. I think he went to K. Karoma initially and tried to adopt an entirely new style, trying to move a little bit more, adopt a jab. And at that level where he was, it's kind of too late to adopt an entirely new style. If he wants to add some wrinkles into his game, fine. But to adopt an entirely new style, it was just too much of an undertaking for a fighter like him, who who I think I just saw the Hornets beat the Knicks. Fuck, that's like a 9-game win streak. But,
Yo, man, yeah, the Knicks have been killing it, man. I have to give y'all props, yo. Like, I have said some slanderous things about the Knicks here, even on this show, just playing around with you. And I have to say, since the All-Star break, by far the most fun team to watch in the league. Yo, Brunson is a beast. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Beast, absolute beast.
Absolutely.
What a pickup! You guys got the pickup of the year. That was a steal.
Honestly, the pickup of the year is more so Josh Hart, because Josh Hart's adding a lot to what we do, to our rotation. And we traded away, I can't remember the buddy's name, but the guy we got from Atlanta last year. He wasn't really doing much in Atlanta and didn't really do much for us, but apparently he's playing well with the Blazers, and I'm fine with that. But back to Jarrett Hurt, don't want to get too far off track. He then comes back in 2021, takes that loss to Louis Arias, and he just has not been the same. The type
at
of
all
dominant pressure that he was able to build throughout fights. So let's be real. Jarrett Hurd was never a good defensive fighter.
No.
Over the first 4 to 6 rounds, he was not really a good fighter at all. But the back half of that fight, that pressure, he just got bigger. He was already a big fighter. Remember how big he was at 154? Yeah. He was already a big fighter in that frame, and he just got bigger in that last 6 rounds of the fight. And he would come on, and you would not be able to get him off you. Yeah. Even Erislandy Lara could not get him off of him. And Erislandy Lara moves with the best of them. So when you take all that to consideration, I just don't know if he's taking too much punishment and he won't be able to return to that. I don't know if he needs a new trainer, but like at least in this fight, I saw some shades of the old Jarrett Hurd. And I think I could see he was learning a few new wrinkles to his game, a little bit more head movement, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough, and I'm not sure he ever gets back to championship contention. So, like, now, Jarrett Hurd, he is now 32 years old, and he's going to have some questions about his career and where he wants to go from here. Does he want to make some paydays? Does he want to get back to a championship level? But he has a lot of work to do, and it's really sad because you can tell not only that split from his trainer, but also the loss of his father. He lost his father during the pandemic, and he just has not been the same. And you look at Jarrett Hurd, you follow him on social media, he seems like a great guy. It's sad to see, but like this is the Hurt business, and this is what the sport looks like.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And it's surprising when you get these guys and when you see them really just how quickly things can change. You can literally go from being a champion to a journeyman overnight. It's really nuts to be able to see something like that, but I hope things do turn around for Jarrett Hurd. He does seem like a good dude. All right, let's transition a little bit. We do have a lot of amazing... Go ahead. Yeah, please.
If we're going to go down that card at all, I just want to give a quick shout out, and I got to look at...
Oh, for sure,
see
please.
If I can find the guy. Who is this? Jarrett Hurd. Where? Okay. Is that that is Elijah Garcia, I believe. Elijah Garcia.
I believe he was on there. Okay, yeah.
That might have been the first fight in the card, the 19-year-old.
Yes, that kid, the middleweight.
That was fun. That was fun.
He's a guy
to watch.
Yeah.
So that's all we'll say about that. But that was fun, and he's a guy to watch. If you get a chance, go back and watch Elijah Garcia.
Yeah, no, he was fun. Yeah, he's a young kid, 19 years old at middleweight. Middleweight has needed something fun. This might be it. All right. We do have some fight announcements that we're going to go ahead and get to, but you know what? We're going to talk about that a little later on in this episode. What we do have to talk about has been the only major pay-per-view boxing match to this point this year, and that was Jake Paul against Tommy Fury in Saudi Arabia. What was it, last week or the week before last? But we didn't have an opportunity to touch on that. Jake Paul took a loss. A lot of people, thought it would go in that way, but I have to say that. Let me ask you this: 2 questions. 1, did they get it right? And 2, where does Jake go here? Is the jig up? What happens next?
Number 1, they got it right. I think Fury did more in that fight, and he deserved a decision despite the 8th round knockdown. Where do we go Next, I think we are on a merry-go-round or whatever. We make 3 left turns, we come back right to the same spot. I think Jake Paul has shown that he can perform well in rematches against Tyron Woodley, and this is the biggest fight for him. There's no light touches for a guy like Jake Paul with where he is in his career. He's not like a guy like Anthony Joshua who can step it down a few levels and take a walkover fight before he gets back up to a certain level. Like,
absolutely,
everybody's kind of low level for Jake Paul, and anybody on any given day can beat Jake Paul because he's still beginning, and that's not taking anything away from him. That's just where he's at this current state in his career. Now, despite how he tried to get real buck with Bomani, we ain't like that because we fuck with Bomani, but
yo, Bomani's the man. We will not tolerate that disrespect.
But okay, he got on Bomani like he not thinking about a loss, right? But you have a rematch clause in your contract. And so he has a rematch clause in his contract. There's really nowhere else for Tommy Fury to go. Jake Paul is going to want his revenge. He has everything from wet dreams to getting sick during camp. Did you hear about the wet dream?
No. What? This is something he really said?
I mean, I think like him and his brother be having a lot of fun on their shows. So he went on there.
For sure.
He was talking about like, he like, kind of saved himself like a few weeks before the fight, had been building up. A few hours before the fight, he had a wet dream and he felt like he released a lot of his testosterone. Now, he didn't blame it fully on the loss, but he did mention it. And once these things get mentioned, I mean, it is what it is. He's not necessarily a fighter, so I don't. Only person
that I've heard with more excuses than Jake Paul was Deontay Wilder.
I know what you're gonna say. I knew you was going there.
That's it, man.
But
that's it.
I hold that more against Deontay Wilder because Deontay Wilder's a fighter. Jake Paul is not a fighter. Jake Paul is an entertainer. And so I think these excuses and these reasons matter more, especially with the idea that there is a rematch clause. They probably go into that rematch. Jake Paul probably loses again, but him winning,
I think he gets dealt with in the second one, to be fair.
Him winning is not like the craziest thing in the world.
No.
Fury probably beats him again, but him winning is not the craziest thing in the world. And if he takes two losses back to back, the jig is still not up because we've seen what he can do. He has a name in the sport, and if he takes on a guy like, let's say, a Nate Diaz, people are still going to watch.
People are going to tune in.
That's what that name and that's what that reach does for you. Now, pay-per-view and getting huge pay-per-view buys, like, that may not be a thing, but you will get eyeballs. If he loses to Tommy Fury again and then fights Nate Diaz, there's no way that you or I are just not going to tune in. So he still has a name, and that's going to take him a long way. So the jig is not up, even with the loss to a legitimate boxer. I think he actually deserves more credit than he's gotten for stepping in the ring with the legitimate boxer. He's accomplished a lot in such a short time.
He has, absolutely.
No amateur background, and it's easy to come down hard on him because he's made a mockery at points at the sport, of the sport of boxing. And I'm not necessarily sure that's all his fault. More so necessarily the people and the companies around him, like let's say a Triller.
Absolutely.
But he's done what he's done. This is his first loss. He deserves a rematch, and he has a name that's going to take him far. Look how far it's taken a guy like Adrian Bronner. Like, a name will take you far, and so people will continue to watch, even if they want to see you lose.
Absolutely. No, I think you hit it directly on the nose. Absolutely, they got it right. I thought there was moments in time towards the middle of the fight where Tommy Fury looked like he was sparring. He looked like he was just flowing, sparring. Didn't look like he thought there was any real threat coming back to a good chunk of time in that fight. If they run it back, honestly, I think that uppercut is right there. I think Tommy Fury, whom made the adjustment in the middle of the fight and started landing that uppercut, I think he puts them out with that uppercut if they do compete once again. Part of me, though, with everything that he has going on, Nate Diaz, KSI, I'll be honest with you. I think Jake Paul needs to do those fights more than, and keep the entertainment, because there is an absolute lane for these YouTube fights. There's a lane for people interested in. He needs to just stay there.
Actually, I think you hit it on the nose. That is the fight if he wants a get-back fight, the fight against
absolutely.
KSI. I think that's there for him.
That's it. Absolutely. I think that's it. And I think if he can, because as of right now, and I heard people talking about this also, if he fights Nate Diaz after the loss, is he the A-side still? Maybe not, to be fair. Maybe not if he... especially if he takes another loss. So I think that KSI fight will be a great one for him. But I do think that is what Jake Paul should do next. All right, moving right along.
I'll
Let's
say this.
go ahead, please. Oh,
No, go ahead.
and salute to Battle Jack. Salute to Battle Jack becoming
I
the oldest.
Notes, like...
Yeah. Oh man. Please. Oh, if you want to talk about it, but look, Battle Jack becomes cruiserweight champion, becomes the oldest cruiserweight champion of all time. I think he is 37 years old at this present moment in time. He went out there.
I think he's 39.
39, Jesus. But he went out there and
honestly
looked good. He looked good. Went out there and put on a performance, man. Was stinging dude left and right, man. Salute to Battle Jack.
I'm not gonna say he looked as good as you did. He looked like very normal Battle Jack, where like he chooses his spots. Battle Jack has like there's like a fast pace, there's a slow pace, and like somewhere in between, maybe closer to slow, is Battle Jack, and like he can lull you into like his slow pace and fighting in spots. But like if you let him lull you into that, he would just school you all night. He gets the TKO, and I think that was the 12th round. I've always liked Battle Jack. He's in some really exciting fights. Happy to see him still around. Collecting checks. I think he lives over there in Dubai.
Yeah.
Like, Battle Jack is kicking it. People be coming over there. They go to the temple with him. They pray with him. He gets a few selfies. Devin Haney, Mike Tyson. Like, he living life. He's kicking it. He's taking on like he's on all the Triller cards. He be fighting with Jake Paul. He just taking on these Wash champions. You know, like Makabu's a little bit older.
Getting paid.
Canelo.
Yeah.
Paychecks. He's found a good way to like make a living out of boxing. Like he's not taking too much wear and tear.
Out of competitive boxing also, because he's still fighting relatively good guys still. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like he's still fighting guys that are relatively decent.
He actually wasn't until Makabu. And then like all the other guys that he fought that were trash, it really doesn't matter anymore because now we have a belt.
Doesn't matter anymore. Absolutely. Salute to dude. Battle Jack went out there, had Mike Tyson with him as he walked out. That shit was hard. I loved every second of it. It was a real feel-good moment. I don't even know why, but I felt great watching that happen. You know what I'm saying? So salute to Battle Jack. That was super solid.
Can we just take a second to like really talk about like, and I don't want to take too long with this, but like that's the positive Jake Paul effect for boxing.
Yes.
For everything negative that a guy like Jake Paul represents in the sport, Battle Jack is getting way more attention than he's gotten his entire career. Amazing fights, world champion in multiple weight classes.
Amanda Serrano as well.
See him, and now people see him, and now people want to talk about him because of Jake Paul. And that's
exactly.
Just the eyes in the sport, the attention that he brings is good for everybody because the expensive house on the block brings up the price of all the houses around it.
I love it. No, I will move on from that because that was a perfect way to put a button on that topic. That is the benefit of Jake Paul and the Jake Paul effect. I love it. Him, Battle Jack, Amanda Serrano are definitely those who are benefiting from that for sure. All right. I want to talk about this before we get out here. We'll do these a little bit more rapid fire because there have been a few fight announcements that have been set, and some of these are fantastic. This one, Guru, I got to ask you this. Is this going to be for number one pound for pound fighter of the world? We're talking about Fulton versus Inoue is set. That is an amazing fight. Is that going to be for pound number one in the world?
I just don't see how people could say anything else. Like, I don't think Stephen Fulton is high enough on a lot of pound for pound lists. And like what he's gone through since 2020, Angelo Leo, Brandon Figueroa, who we just sat here and praised, and that was a 122-pound Brandon Figueroa.
Absolutely.
Daniel Roman, and now Inoue moves up, and he's like, "I'm going to take you on in Japan." Now, business-wise, it's a real gangster move. I'm gonna go to your hometown.
Absolutely.
Business-wise, it works because the little guys don't get enough love here in the States. You can't put that fight on pay-per-view, but you're gonna make a boatload of money in Japan. It's also like, but it doesn't do anything for his name. Doesn't do anything for him or Nia Inoue because it's only a fans fight. Us, the real boxing.
It's the hardcore fight. Yeah, absolutely. Love this.
Because we the only ones that are gonna be awake at 5 a.m. in the morning, 8 a.m. in the morning, whenever, like, you got to be a real fan to catch this fight. And we will. Like, we will sit up there and watch.
Absolutely.
This is an amazing matchup. I am
missing
so
this
excited.
Fight. This fight for me, and we'll talk about the next one, but people are excited obviously about Ryan, Ryan, and we're talking about Gervonta Davis and stuff. Those fights are great. For me, this is the fight that I'm looking forward to. This is my Super Bowl boxing fight of the year as of this point in time. What a fight. Salute to both guys for actually getting this done. The Monster, if you have not seen him, you absolutely need to go watch dude. He is incredible to watch. Somebody at that size who generates that power, and he is tough as shit. Dude, I'm telling you, y'all need to watch both of them out, okay? They're both incredible. All right.
But like,
speaking of, I'm sorry, please.
To answer your point, people have him top 3, most pound for pound list. Stephen Fulton, with the win over him and what he's done over the last few years, definitely number 1 pound for pound.
Absolutely.
And even if you look at what Inoue Inoue has done, he's gone undisputed. He's moving up to a new weight class. If he beats Stephen Fulton, he's definitely number different. 1 pound for pound. I don't want to hear Terrence Crawford. Maybe I'll hear maybe you could do a Usyk or something like that. But it's so hard to put anyone else in these slot. These are the guys that are taking the fights that matter, and they need to be rewarded.
Absolutely. No, these are you can keep your Terrence Crawfords, and y'all know I love Bud. No, he ain't it right now. Even Canelo at this point in time, because he's taking an L. Dude. And right now, activity, he hasn't been here in a while, which is the longest kind of break that I've had for Canelo in a while. But what we're watching right now with these smaller divisions, Stephen Fulton, Inoue, dude, this is going to be a great one. I can't wait for this fight. All right, another fight that was just announced. Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor. I mean, obviously, Josh Taylor, the champion. We're talking about Teofimo Lopez, the former champion. He's moving up to 140. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Is this a bad matchup for Teofimo Lopez?
I think it works. Honestly, I think it works. Who knows what's going on in the mind of Teofimo Lopez and his father these days. I really don't know, and you see it in the fights. He hasn't looked like himself, but in these fights where he hasn't looked like himself, he's come in as huge favorites. In this fight, I think he's a clear underdog against the former, I think he's dropped some of those titles, the former undisputed champ, Josh Taylor. Now, Josh Taylor, who's the clear
he's
favorite,
still the Ring Magazine champion. And as all of us already know, Ring Magazine champion tends to be still the best one in the bunch at this present moment in time.
Okay. And Josh Taylor, he's dealing with a really, really long layoff. He fought once in 2020. He fought once in 2021. He fought once in 2022. It's going to be probably something like 16 months out of the ring before he gets in the ring again. He had a very questionable last performance. So I actually think both fighters have a lot to prove, and I think Teofimo Lopez can actually thrive a bit more than we're giving him credit for in that underdog role. I think that favorite role adds a lot of pressure, expectations. They be putting him in New York, and he be trying to do a lot. I think in an underdog role, he may be able to thrive in ways that we haven't seen him thrive in years. And with that long layoff and everything that happened with Josh Taylor, his last performance didn't look good either against Jack Catterall.
It did not.
A lot of people think he lost that, and then some people may say he ducked the rematch. I may be of that bunch, but coming in, this may be the perfect storm, and it could be Teofimo's night. Now, what do I expect?
For sure,
I don't think Teofimo is going to be able to use his legs to get away from Josh Taylor, who's going to pressure him. For all 12 rounds. I do expect Josh Taylor to get the knockout, but I think another angle to look at this favors Teofimo Lopez. And don't be surprised if Teofimo Lopez turns back the clock and we start to see some of that talent that made us fall in love with him to begin with.
Possibly. I totally agree. I love what you said there. One thing and I agree with your assessment as well of the fight in terms of Josh Taylor possibly knocking out Teofimo Lopez. The size and length is going to be so apparent when you see both of them in there. Josh Taylor's big. He's a tall guy for the weight class. If you ever even see him next to Bud Crawford, he's actually taller than Bud is. So, and literally has muscled up this very similar way. I think the size and reach will be very apparent in this matchup. And that is why I also, unless he can't turn back the clock, I'm rocking with Josh Taylor as well. All right, before we get up out of here, I'd be remiss if we did not talk about this. I'm going to try to go to the press conference when it's here in LA in April 22nd, but we have to talk about Ryan Garcia for Gervonta Davis is finally set. Contracts are signed. This fight is happening. Guru, the question I have to ask you is this. the fact that this fight is signed, what does this mean for boxing? Not for the fight itself. We'll do our picks and our breakdowns in the future. What does this mean for boxing?
I mean, like, can we get like a drink champs like clap it up for them, like for boxing one time, like just like
one time, you know,
doing what they were supposed to, doing what they were supposed to do, like they did that. I don't really have many other words for it. This is something we get robbed of so many times in boxing. And while these aren't necessarily two top pound for pound boxers, maybe some people could argue that they want Tank on the pound for pound list. Ryan Garcia is certainly not on the pound for pound list. They are the two most recognizable names in the sport. Maybe you argue a Canelo, maybe you argue an Anthony Joshua, but for most people, especially the younger generation, maybe you argue with Jake Paul, but for most people, especially the younger generation, Gervonta Davis, Tank, and Ryan Garcia are the two most recognizable names in the sport of boxing. And
absolutely.
Like I said before, what this means for the sport, the expensive house on the block just brings up the price of everybody around it. This is part of a really, really exciting stretch in the sport of boxing, starting this month.
Let them know about
March 25th with David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. You got a couple that's on pay-per-view. You got a couple other small fights in there. Anthony Joshua's coming back on April 1st. Then you have, what else is coming up? Then April, let's see. You have that on April 22nd. With Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis. And then May 7th, you have Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue. That's like, and then you have June, where you have Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez. Now, why does all of this matter? Because when boxing does what it's supposed to, everybody can work, but everybody can work together. Like, they're all going to lend themselves to each other. Now, the biggest fight is Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis, but like the hunger for that, the thirst for that, it's gonna force people into those other fights. You know, you're paying attention to all the shoulder programs for Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. You might just stumble into a David Benavidez versus a Caleb Plant. You might just stumble into a Stephen Fulton versus Naoya Inoue. Even something like Creed 3. At the right time, it benefits everything in the boxing ecosystem. Like this can be a beautiful ecosystem that works together when done correctly. When everybody's stepping up and taking the fights that matters, and that just does not happen enough in the sport of boxing. And so we can look at all these fighters, why they haven't done this, why they haven't done that. We have a bunch of fights that we are going to enjoy that are good 50-50 matchups. Let's enjoy what we have in front of us right now. And there are no guarantees. Injuries may happen, whatever the case may be. But as of now, Tuesday, March 7th, I am so excited for the next few months in boxing.
And you know what? I'm hyped. I don't know about y'all. So check this out. With that being said, that's about all the time we have today. Guru, wait, no, what are you about to say, please? We ain't gonna cut off the Guru. What you got to say?
It just only makes me think that, like, it makes me think about how fighters are moving through their careers. Because the older fighters get, these fights just seem less likely. Fighters do whatever they want, and they get used to making certain paydays, and then they don't want to go into these big fights. But you have two fighters who have built a name for themselves in their 20s. So now they're able to take advantage of these
afford a loss.
And they're able to take advantage of these huge matchups in their 20s. But had this been a few years down the line, these guys were in their mid 30s. This fight may not happen. So the faster you're moving your fighters as they start their career, you see some of these like Russians. They come in, they're like 15-0, they're world champs already. If you do that young enough, that can be very beneficial to the way boxing moves. With a lot of these younger fighters, just you still have that hunger. You haven't slept in those silk sheets yet. So these guys in their 20s, they're willing to make it happen. Big shout out to those guys.
Love it. Love it. Shout out to those guys who are actually making boxing fun again. We appreciate y'all. With that being said, that is about all the time we have for today. This has been episode 10 of the Guru's Corner. We are going to be back so much more regularly, man. There's so much more boxing. You guys just heard the schedule. BCAM, Guru, I appreciate you today, man. For everybody else, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this video and everything else. We love y'all. Tell the Beehive we appreciate them. We out of here. Love you.